I think a bit of global warming wouldn't go amiss in Scotland just now, because it is pouring a gale in the middle of December. So let's go up. I don't know what we're going to make of this at all, and let's go up and find out. Anti-ram raid. Take this off. In fact, let me just take this off. Just wiggling about here. We've got the anti-ram raid barriers up there, as we can see, for the globalists, and just moving our way down to find out what they're actually saying on the final day. See if we can bump into anybody of interest. Hope that tightens up a bit, because it's wiggling about all over the place. Let me just try and tighten this up. Don't know what the script is here. So yeah. Hello sir, do you want to have a wee chat? Can you tell us what your quick chat? What's your name, sir? This is David.
My name's Richard. I'm from the southwest of England, Wiltshire.
Okay, my friend Richard, why are you up here in Glasgow?
Up here, I came up here almost 2 weeks ago now. I'm protesting with Extinction Rebellion. Very concerned about the collapse of the climate and the ecological breakdown. We can see melting of the Arctic poles, and that's going to produce warming in itself with the feedbacks that come from passing tipping points. There are things like 38 degrees recently in the 38 degrees in the Arctic Circle. So we're going to have
sorry, can I just ask a question, because I'm probably more ignorant than you are.
Right.
I was the coldest winter in the Arctic. Is that incorrect?
I wasn't aware that any cold records have been reached. What I understand to be the situation is that it's likely within about the next 10 years that there will be a blue ocean event, which will be effectively no snow on the Arctic in the summer period.
Wow.
That is quite serious, because rather than be a reflective snow which keeps the place cool, it's going to be dark ocean, and to absorb more heat from the sun.
I'm just trying to put this speaker on just so that we can get you, make sure that we've got you.
Yeah.
That's better, that's it, it's not wobbling off now. Just take the cover off. Yes, carry on, my friend.
So it's climate tipping points that are being passed, and that's what concerns me. We've got 38 degrees inside the Arctic Circle. As the permafrost melts, it releases CO2, also releases methane. There's 4 times as much CO2 in the Arctic as ever been released by humanity. So we can imagine that once that starts to be released, with 38 degrees it's going to be released now, it's going to make the situation far worse. We're not going to be able to come back from it. You know, we've had... Can
I ask you a question? Would it be good if Extinction Rebellion did a plant a tree day, where individuals can take responsibility to actually then plant trees, which is obviously going to soak up the CO2? So it would be good if Extinction Rebellion, which I would support as well, would actually, the wind is affecting the sound, is it? I've just plugged it in. Just plugged in my speaker, so I hope that's getting better. That if you planted trees, then it would actually help soak up the CO2.
Well, yeah, certainly planting trees is a good plan.
Do you think a plant a tree day? That would be a good one in the summer.
It'd be a great thing to do. It'd be great to involve the kids with and everything. But I'm not sure that there's sufficient in that alone to tackle it.
Well, if there's 6 billion people worldwide, that's 6 billion trees and plant a tree day if we all get involved.
Yeah, but they don't start absorbing CO2 until about 20 years.
Hey, was that right?
It's going to, in the next 10 years, we need to drastically reverse the direction we're going. If you look at a graph of CO2, you can see it's going up worse, faster and faster all the time. So it's vital that we do something about fossil storage solutions. So we can use more wind and electricity with storage solutions.
Well, I hope they're not going to store the CO2 in this ocean, because I just looked up what happens with CO2 if it's stored in the ocean. And if the CO2 gets released by any chance into the ocean, it makes the ocean acidic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but the other thing is that China, India, and the US are the three main polluters just now, or the three main releasers. I wouldn't say polluters, but releasers of that. China wasn't here. India says they're not going to do anything until 2070, and Russia wasn't here. So a number of the big people, and even if the UK got to zero emissions, it's not going to have that effect.
Yeah, it's certainly not any kind of solution, but that is not say we shouldn't be pressing for the UK to do this. I mean, but we are also, although we're responsible for a bit less than 2% of world emissions, if you count the fact that we fund most of the fossil fuels from the City of London, that figure then becomes about 15%, and we shouldn't be funding them. And in fact, there's $5.3 trillion spent of taxpayers' money subsidising fossil fuels every year around the world. You know, that's taking hard-earned money from you and me and paying to damage the environment. There are some very bad things wrong, and I take your point that China, India and America, but if you think, say for example, this high street here we're being looted, would you just take a telly just because somebody else is doing it? The right thing to do is for us to put our house in order first, and I believe a country like China will do something because they're not stupid and they can act quickly, whereas in a country like Britain, we can't act so quickly because we don't have a leader that just says, right, we're doing that, and people have to do it. I mean, China has got twice as many solar panels as the next highest country in the world.
I don't know that. That's interesting. And I hear they planted a full forest as well. They got the army, and there was aerial pictures from a satellite that showed that the Chinese had actually planted a forest in China, which is obviously absorbing as well. But I mean, we could take individual responsibility, and I think it would be good if Extinction Rebellion came out and actually did a plant a tree day in the spring.
Well, maybe I'll put that into the channel somewhere. See if we can get it to happen. It's certainly not.
Just call it the David Valentine plant a tree day. I seen it in my
Perfect.
You want to say anything, madam? You sure? We like all sorts of people talking on the channel. Yeah, listen, that's great. Listen, really appreciate it. Thanks very much. Well, as you can see, I'm lovely to everybody. So, this will be quite interesting. You can see all the police officers here. Find out whether I can get in and have a chat with people with hopefully a more logical thing. I was trying to, sorry guys, I was trying to get my mic on there. Hopefully the wind is now less because I put this furry mic on. The thing which I purchased for you guys as well, because I know it's difficult to hear when it's blowing a gale. But hopefully that's made a difference. So let's go up and see what the Extinction Rebellion guys are saying. Hi guys, how you doing? What are you protesting here, gents?
We're saying that the in there in the conference are making great speeches and promising all sorts of things, but they're not actually doing anything at all.
The delivery's not there?
No, absolutely not.
What would you like to do? See, there's a lot of people saying that that's not getting delivered. What's your ideal goals? What would you like to see delivered?
Well, it's really very simple. Greenhouse gas emissions are still going up. They need to be coming down. All this talk and hot air, they're just talking around the issue. They're not actually doing anything. Greenhouse gas emissions in the UK, if you count all our iPhones and our new cars and the rest of it, greenhouse gas emissions have not really changed.
But China's not here, and China produces 9 billion tonnes of CO2 per year just now.
China become the factory of the world.
Yeah.
They make all the stuff that we buy. If we didn't buy so much, they wouldn't make so much.
Is this almost like I'm not saying it's Pol Pot-ish, but is it almost like we go back to agrarian times? Is it like an agrarian type of philosophy, this?
How do you mean?
Well, Pol Pot wanted everybody to go back and work on the fields.
Oh, no.
How regressive we would be to actually prevent this?
Greenhouse gas emissions come down. But if you were to start now and reduce your carbon emissions, your personal emissions by about 10% a year, anybody can do 10%, and next year you look at it again and you do 10%. If you do 10% every year, you'll be in far more than any country in the world.
But the
10%.
UK's brought down its emissions by almost 50% over the last number of years.
Not if you count the emissions from the stuff that we buy.
Right, so we're talking about the worldwide. So Scotland's only got about 50, including that, I think it was 74 tonnes of emissions. So Scotland, even if it went completely CO2, would only be a drop in the ocean if it went completely CO2 free, it would only be a drop in the ocean of the total worldwide emissions.
Scotland's in a fantastic position to make the point that it can be done. They're small enough to achieve that, but they're big enough in the world saying that people will take notice. If a country like Scotland or Wales or Ireland can really make a difference, other countries will take notice. So Scotland this is absolutely the perfect place to hold COP.
Thanks very much for putting your input in, son. It was greatly appreciated. Thank you. I'm from Glasgow.
Yeah, what's your...
Whereabouts in Glasgow?
No.
Oh, the Guerilla TV channel. Guerilla TV channel. Thank you, sir. This like, hey, Mark Dice, hi there.
I know you mean.
To make sure that their demands were heard on the streets of the UK, but to build a movement that is needed, that would act in solidarity with the global south. And we have built that movement. We built it on our hundreds of thousands last weekend, and we are building it here, connecting our movement, building our movement. No longer talking about polar bears or anti-calls for action, but calling for justice. A justice transition for working people, land rights for indigenous communities, unturning the systems of oppression that are hardwired into our economic and political systems. This is not the beginning, because friends, there have been decades of our movements working to build this moment. I remember under the tree in Bali, where a handful of climate justice campaigners met to say we needed to build a climate justice movement via Campesina, Friends of the Earth International, Economic Justice Organisation, and we were on the margins. And now it's our voice that echoes in those plenaries, it's our voice that echoes on the streets. So not only do we have to keep up this pressure, but it's important for those of us who are in the UK to make sure that we hold our government responsible. Because tonight, they will tell the world that they tried their best and that it was developing countries who held back progress. When we know the reality is that they've been bankrolling polluting companies. They're licensing more fossil fuels in the North Sea. They're expanding aviation. They're turning their backs on their call for reparations to the global south. It's up to us to turn this moment of injustice into an era of justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Safia Hassan.
So I'll try and get inside here to find out what's actually going on from the inside. It's always quite interesting getting people don't listen to what they're actually saying as well on the outside. So I think that's giant pot, no COP22. So they're obviously protesting against the new oil rig that's being sanctioned by the UK government, which were there when the Green Party said they didn't want to talk to us like children. So obviously the Canadian Laura Slater doesn't want to talk to us. Lovely little ditty. How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? No. I'm talking to myself, guys. Just keep yourself entertained. Don't know how we get in here. That's all cordoned off. Cordoned off. Are you guys working? Are you the police? No. Lifeguards, in case I've got fallen. How, can you sail us up so I can get in? How'd you get in, boys?
Don't have the pass.
Where is it?
In there?
But how would you get in to even show the pass? They can walk through. Oh, there it is, yeah. Right, I see. So it is over here, and I don't have a pass. It's not bad. Jen. Did you get a pass? How'd you get a pass, officer?
Sorry?
How'd you get a pass?
Pass?
To get in. Can you get in? On press?
No, you need to get accreditation done.
Where'd you get the accreditation done?
It's usually done at the other side of the same.
Where's
You
that?
need to ask for security. If you don't get any
How
accreditation,
the boss say we are press from a company,
Okay.
a Scottish-based media company.
Okay, and have you got invitation to get in?
No, not yet. No.
Then you can't come in until I see that.
Right.
Unless you want to speak to my colleague there, show him what you've got. You might, if you have anything, show him, and he'll make the decision. But now I can't let you in.
Right. Okay, that's fine. No problem. What colleague was it you want you pointing at, sir?
Just that he's from the UN, he can speak to.
Is it? Is you from the UN? Hello, sir. How are you? Are you from the UN?
No,
Oh, right. You said you're from the UN.
can't help.
Yes, my name's David Valentine. I'm from an online TV channel. TV channel. It's a Scottish-based channel. It's incorporated. Just like other ones. What we're looking to do is just get inputs of what's actually happening in the final day. Find out from Scotland and wider from the UK to find out what the situation is in the final day and what the sort of conclusions have been made there, sir.
Do you want him to go inside?
Yes, please.
You will need some sort of accreditation from the United Nations to get inside. There's a hell of a lot of security in
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
So you need something that shows you've got a right to be inside
Yeah. And how would I get that? How would I obtain that?
from the United Nations, basically, unless you have a contact inside that could provide it for you.
So, right, okay, so... But some media have got in through the accreditation process from the UK.
They will all have been accredited.
So I would have had to get accreditation. Can I get accreditation now from the UN?
You need to be able to show your letter of accreditation to us,
Right.
plus a form of ID and a negative lateral flow test dated today.
Right,
Once you get that, we can let you know.
right. Where would I get the accreditation letter? I know you said the UN, but where is the UN in Scotland or in Glasgow? Where would that go?
To apply online.
Right, so it's online, an accredited flow, pass, clearance and ID.
ID, a photographic ID, and a negative lateral flow test dated today.
Oh goodness, it's quite a lot.
Everybody has to do that, I'm afraid, to get inside.
Is it? That's quite a lot, isn't it? Why is the UN doing security? That's who elected the UN, sir.
I cannot answer that question.
Can I ask a question? I think declaration of genocide. Nicola Sturgeon has actually brought in a lot of UN declarations who nobody ever voted, as far as I'm aware, for him doing the UN, that she's brought into Scottish law. One of the things she had brought in from Scotland is the declaration on genocide, which is quite specific. Do you think there's a reason behind that?
I'm afraid that these are questions I cannot answer.
No. It's quite strange though, isn't it? I find it strange, maybe my viewers find it strange as well, that she's wholesaling, importing legislation from an unelected globalist body.
Again, these are things I cannot answer.
Right, okay, that's great, that's fantastic. Okay, so we can't get in basically, that's the script.
You will need some sort of accreditation to get past the doors here. And
It finishes today.
Well, it was meant to finish today.
Could finish tomorrow. All right, it's good going longer, isn't it? Where would they get the lateral flow test that's acceptable for accreditation?
Either do it yourself or the Nuffield up the road there on the right hand side, they can do it for you.
Right.
And they will give you a letter saying, hopefully it's negative.
I've already had it, boss, so it wasn't very serious for me. Certainly wasn't seeing us to be locking down the country for that period of time. I had it for 2 weeks, self-isolated. I've had worse colds, so I know that's not applicable for every day, but I've had worse colds. So, and I've already been tested subsequently, and it's tested negative as well. So, and I know I don't have it anymore. Do you think it's acceptable for the government to lock down people and not allow people to go to bars and clubs and all that now?
That is a question I cannot answer.
Okay, boss, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So accreditation from the UN. So the UN's accrediting this, and basically they're doing security in Scotland. I thought it would be Scotland. So a globalist, non-elected body is now doing accreditation for an event in Glasgow. So if that doesn't show you the globalists that are doing it, and so this is like a technocracy rather than a democracy who's now spanning the globe, just like the EU, spanning the 20 unelected commissioners dictating the legislation rather than the democratically elected parliament. And now we've got a definitely unelected globalist body such as the UN, and they're not here. Here's an absolute riot. An unelected body such as the UN, and they are now bringing in security. So you've got to have security for an event in Scotland. So it's not based by the UK, it's based by the UN. So give me a second. So it's always complex. It's never easy. It's always complex to do this, and so they just get the people that they want to be in the actual event to be in it, and yeah, really, really bad. Look at Glasgow now. Fully strange buildings, not really relative to what it was like before, I would say. So. So not allowed in, we are not allowed to get into. So I have to go into the UN's website, get a lateral flow test. This may or may not end today, and get some form of identification. The journalism, they refuse to allow me to get a pass or a journalist identification because they said I wasn't a journalist. So what they do is if your face doesn't fit, you ain't getting in, and that's unfortunately what is happening just now. If your face is not known, you're not getting in, and this is the issue that has come to pass. So they restrict access so they don't get any difficult questions asked. They prevent people, other journalists, alternative journalists, getting in. They restrict the flow of information. They're now restricting it through the tech companies. They're restricting the flow of information. And you see, when I ask them questions, that they don't like it because these are questions that a lot of the general public would like answered. yet none of the so-called journalists who are basically shills for politicians who are in turn shills for the globalists are not answering. How quickly was the murder of an MP by an Islamist, a Muslim, put to bed the whole of the political establishment and the whole of the media, and what came out of that was online abuse. Islam, it was abuse online of MPs generally. When it was a so-called right wing, I don't know if the guy was a right wing, but who murdered Miss Cox. It was all right wing this and right wing that, and plastered all over the papers. So this is what they do. There is a disconnect, a deliberate political disconnect between what is being reported, and we have partisan news. We also now have partisan policing, political policing, where if you're an Antifa, you can burn down and kill people and act like terrorists. And as we saw in America, BLM and two Marxists, well, BLM is definitely a Marxist organisation, or kill people. In the case of Antifa, and nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. And this is the disconnect we've got. This is the disconnect we've got. Lucky I know Glasgow so well, don't I? This is the disconnect we've got. That the people who are meant to be held responsible are not being held responsible by the journalist class, and they're able to easily sidestep any issues such as the missing £600,000 that Nicola Sturgeon's got for the missing money for the money that went missing for the money that was the money for the party, and that's just disappeared. So I mean, it's quite incredible. This is the situation that we find ourselves in. So, all cordoned off. So the general populace is getting nowhere close to this. all over the UK up here. So that's about as close as we're getting to the COP. And interaction with the politicians. Are you under the expressway, David? Yeah, not far, buddy, from the expressway. Yeah, so that's it. So we're not getting anywhere near it. So we've now got to get passes from the UN to get into we're now going to get passes from the UN to get into the SECC to hold our political betters, our elite class, rules for thee but not for me, political class, and I'm including every mainstream political party in that. This is just a non-accountable, elitist bunch of politicians that were running in a quasi-democracy, but the quasi-democracy protects them from getting asked questions. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. At least they're well protected. You know, if you can't get sort of call out just now that, you know, where the police are protecting the elite, protecting the globalists. As long as they're okay, I think that's all that matters, isn't it? They're not really bothered about the little guy. They're not really interested. They don't even want to ask difficult questions from the little guy. That's what they do. They're not interested in that. They're only interested in feathering their own nest. So what they want to do is take £100 billion from the West. Nippy was talking about last night. £100 billion from the West and give it to I wonder if we can do that. Let's try this. And give it to the smaller nations to decarbonise, which I don't disagree with if that's what was actually going to happen. But we all know that when they take money from, whether it be debt funding or taxation that we'll be paying to taxes to pay for this, the government has been an incredibly bad arbiter of spending money, especially spending money in other people's countries, because we, as the people who are paying for it, do not have any way of identifying where the money is going. So we don't know if this has been done well or badly, or no identification of how this actually is going to materialise. And this is always the issue. This is the issue that we always find ourselves in. We're not called the Guerilla TV channel for nothing. That we'll try and get in another way. I don't think it's going to work, but where there's a will, there's a way. And so we don't know how these people who are wanting £100 billion of our money to spend in poorer countries, and I do agree it is for a noble cause. If it decarbonates, yes please, if it decarbonates the smaller countries, which also allows them electricity and power, but they would have to take responsibility like hydro and other things as well. I mean, there's already an issue between Sudan, Ethiopia, Sudan, and because of water usage. Now, I don't know why they're not doing desalination tanks, and they can use salt water. There's already desalination tanks in Africa. Sorry, not in Africa, in the Middle East, where they pump, they de-salt and they purify seawater, and they can then use the seawater to purify or at least make it for ground to feed plants and trees and things like that. So they could, and it's been muted by somebody else, terraform the Sahara Desert and also the Gobi Desert in Saudi Arabia. I think the Gobi Desert, there's a massive desert in Saudi Arabia. So they could do that, and that will thereby help get trees planted, and thereby be able to re-terraform the desert, and we could actually then reduce more CO2. I never knew that it took 20 years for a tree to start capturing carbon. I thought that would have been right from the beginning, that these people would, the trees would actually start to decarbonate the atmosphere. I don't know what they grow from, if it's not carbon dioxide right from the start. But I didn't see Greta, who seems to be an anarcho communist with her anarcho-communist with her Antifa t-shirt, doesn't take personal responsibility of planting a tree in a Plant a Tree Day, the David Ballantyne Plant a Tree Day. So I don't know why why we're not doing that. So here's me coming round to access point number 2.
That way. Thank you. This way. For the event center? Yep. Okay, thank you.
I'm sure if two people swung into that, I could get around that, couldn't they? If they pushed that way, I could jump in there and get in. Oh no, there's bars there. Quite interesting. Sneaking in there. The independent media, I'm telling you, we're getting harassed all the time. It's not funny. So, yeah. That's us guys. We've got an authoritarian leader in wee nippy, so I don't think I can get in. I'm sure there's ways of poll voting that. I don't know if I would be like getting chased about by the police. Have you got your lateral flow test and signed in by the United Nations to get into this establishment? I don't think I'm going to bother, but I just wanted to show you. I also wanted to find out myself what was actually happening and how they were actually going to restrict access to it from the independent media. The independent media is not being given journalist things. I think we're going to have to set up our own trade union for free journalists, because we're not getting accreditation by the National Union of Journalists, and we need recognition and identification that we are journalists and we are doing journalistic things. I think you can all tell, the people that tune in here can all tell that we are actually asking questions, and they don't like it, so I like it because they don't like it. But there's other things in the pipeline as well, guys. I've been quiet because there's other things happening, such as new political parties, and I hope that you're all going to be voting for Richard Tice as well. Richard Tice, nice guy Eddie, Richard Tice, down at the by-election that he's standing in. There's a couple of by-elections, I think there'll be soon one for Claudia Webb, who was threatening to throw acid in some person's face. She's got threatening to send naked pictures of a woman to another woman, So that was it. That's the situation that we find ourselves in. That another by-election. But nice guy Eddie Richard Type's been doing some good stuff on the interviews that he's been doing recently, and yeah, he's been doing some great stuff. Very interesting. And whether or not this is going to be the breakthrough, the sleaze in the Conservative Party, the sleaze in the Labour Party. Labour Party seem to have gone ahead, but honestly, two cheeks of the same ass, as George Galloway would say. And these cheeks are not very good, are they? Let's be honest, we're seeing the restrictions. We have to stop voting for globalist parties. And all 5 of our mainstay parties are all globalist shell parties. And it has to stop. We have to stop this. Getting protected by an undemocratic United Nations who nobody's voted for. Half of the regimes in there, or more than half, are totalitarian, certainly authoritarian. And wee Nippy is bringing in wholesale legislation from unelected bodies where there is no accountability to them. Oh, we'll just wholesale import that. Well, that might not be in the best interest of the Scottish people by importing wholesale legislation from an unelected globalist shell body. And this is the Nicola Sturgeon keeps talking about democracy all throughout that book. I mean, I think Nicola Sturgeon has got Talia, which is the lying two people by Muslims in defence of Islam. I think that's what Nicola Sturgeon's got in the defence of globalism and postmodernist Marxism. Oh, we'll just lie. Oh, we'll lie until somebody actually calls us out, and then we'll just go stoom and not say anything. In the meantime, we'll just not say anything about the fact that we've been lying. Where's the money for the fund, for the Independence Fund? £600,000 just went missing out of the bank account. Now there's been word that Nicola Sturgeon might be having to go to teach in America because she could be up in charges here. Nicola Sturgeon could be up in charges for the way that she's mishandled Scotland and what she's done in Scotland. Look at that. Look how nondescript those buildings are. Look how nondescript all that is. And look at the beautiful old-fashioned buildings. And look at that. It looks a lot better than it was from the postmodernist, brutalist architecture in Glasgow before. But so you walk down. I never walked down here. So it looks better than it did, but I mean it's still nondescript. And they could have had solar panels on top of those roofs. So, back in Glasgow for a bit, so this is all quite new. So, yeah, you can't get into the COP unless you got online clearance from the UN. The UN's got to clear you. And obviously, you guys know that I've had issues with getting accreditation, press accreditation, the UJ won't actually sanction it. So I think we need a trade union for freedom journalists in the UK. That's a thing that we definitely need. We're getting restricted by the globalists through the trade unions, and only their pals in the media can actually get accreditation to go in and ask them very milquetoast questions. So the first thing is we need a new trade union that is in defence of freedom of speech and being able to ask questions. I think there's one that's set up in, I think Austria. I think Tommy Robinson was at it. And obviously he's done a lot of journalistic stuff. I would consider him a journalist. And he's, this is Anderson. So you can see this is Argyle Street, continuation of Argyle Street. And this is an area that's been vastly improved, taking down all the postmodernist eyesore council houses, state produced horrible grey council houses, lacking infrastructure. If you look down here, there's no shops. There might be one or two, I think, but I mean that's what used to be here. That's the 1960s, 70s, the state, Glasgow Council producing buildings, and it's just horrendous. You need to knock that down. It's certainly an improvement. It's certainly an improvement, but I don't know how much of an improvement it is. But again, look, if you look, these are actual, there's no shops down here, so even today the generation, or the ability for the people who live here to generate wealth, it means that they have to obviously travel maybe into Glasgow, but to generate wealth within the area is more challenging. There's a big thing at the end here, big building, big office building at the end, and this is a walk into Glasgow. But in this area, there's there's very limited shops. There's an ability to create wealth in the area is very limited. I mean, that's the first store that we've come down to in Anderson. There are good people up here as well. I really like people in Anderson as well. Billy Conley was from Anderson in Partick. So that's the first shop. It's too late, and that's not going anymore either. So they managed to close down all the small retailers here. So it's the Globalist in that building that we can't get access to, have managed to lock us all in, decimate small and medium-sized businesses, but retain the profits and the wealth transfer to the largest corporations. And if you don't think that's corporatist, well, I would suggest you have to look at what is corporatist. Prevent any questions being asked and just have it's almost as if it's a backslapping competition. Oh yeah, we're globalist, I'm a globalist as well. Oh hi there, Mr. Globalist, are you a globalist? I'm a globalist. We've got Doughball AOC talking to wee Nippy. I mean really, honestly. The quality and standard of the MPs have been gone down. And we've also seen something I was watching last night on YouTube was Yaron. They talked to the boys at the Liberty Podcast, Scottish Liberty Podcast, or the Liberty Podcast. Yaron Brooks, I think his gentleman's name was, and Kimmy Badenoch. And so this is the first thing that you get here is a pub, and this is the only thing on the extension of Argyle Street, a school. And there's no infrastructure. There's no economic infrastructure in this area and so many others. When they were building these council housed reservations, there was not one iota of input into how are these people in this area going to make money? How are they going to generate wealth? And there's no shops, nothing like that. So it's just absolutely bonkers. No wealth generation, so you would have to travel. So it's not a far travel into the city centre, I'll grant you. There it is there. So you can cross over the bridge. And but there's other ones that are further out that have got the same design and same economic issues. It was designed like this by the Glasgow City Council, who the council, as we know, that the government building things is a disaster. You only have to look at what the mobile phone is today comparative to a state-run British Telecom, and British Telecom was a disaster. Sorry, I was going to talk about Yaron Brooks and Kimmy Badenoch. So a gentleman said, it's up on YouTube so you can search for it, I might go over it later, that the National Socialists were socialists. And the argument, I didn't hear from what the counter argument was from Yaron Brooks or Kimmy Badenoch. But they said because the National Socialists killed communists, or socialists or trade unionists, that they for some reason weren't communists and weren't communists. And of course they were communists. The National Socialists were communists, or not communists, sorry, take that back, scratch that. The National Socialists were socialists. Marxism is a subset, just like National Socialism is a subset of socialism, the greater socialist sphere. And postmodernist Marxism, basically racist, anti-white racist Marxism now, anti-men, anti-heterosexual, you hear them talk about heteronormative, is anti-white heterosexual men, but not just that, it could be anti-white women, even it could be anti-anything other than this totem pole of oppression, and the oppression and oppressor and oppressed comes from Marxism. The difference was that was Marxism against the workers and the employers of the capitalist class. Now it's based on race, sex and gendered, not even gender lines, but sexuality lines. And this is what's actually happening, that we've now got this in all over the world, pushed by the people in that building over there, pushed by the globalist shills, and that we've got to suck it up. We're not allowed to go on holiday. If you don't do what you're told, they'll blackmail you. And if you look at what's happening with the vax, you can't even get into a gym now. You can't go to the gym. You can't, unless you've been double vaxxed. You can't leave the country even unless you've been double vaxxed. You need to stop voting for these guys. These are bad, bad people. These are authoritarians, and these are very, very bad people. And the only way to stop it, and they won't even take a question. They'll slander me in the papers rather than me asking them awkward questions. All sorts of various ways to get slandered. And they'll just say anything. I'm surprised they've not said there was a paedophile. They can literally say nothing, and our legal system will not get me in court to sue them. And I would say that what's been said about me in the papers is definitely slanderous. And defamation, I don't know what's liable or slanderous. Could be and or both. From a person who is a political agitator, Paul Hutchins, political agitator on behalf of the Labour Party. Through the Daily Record, before that the Glasgow Herald. And quite clearly, demonstratively, clearly lying. And it's not even coming, they're like the bitches. They're like the globalist bitches, and they do the dirty work to prevent the populace actually understanding the bigger picture and the bigger plan. So China wasn't there. China's pumping out 9 billion tonnes of CO2. It seems like the left and the people that are, when we were talking to that guy from Extinction Rebellion, they can make excuses for everybody else. The Chinese do not have to be held accountable. Nobody has to be held accountable bar us. And we will have to take everything that's coming out of the globalist cabal in the neck for whatever they say. And the actual science will not actually be challenged. The science that does not look complete. So let me flip this around and again. It's not going to be challenged. Let me flip this around and show you the horrible architecture. Look at the horrible architecture. Now, Glasgow was a stunning city. I'll take you and show you some of the ones, but look at the brutalist rubbish. Look at that. Look how horrible that architecture is. And they just knocked down where that crane is, if you can see in front. Where the crane is, that was a beautiful building. Absolutely stunning. Just knocked it down, let it go to ruin, knocked it down, and you can see you would better knocking down any one of these any day. These are absolutely, so they not only are they lowering the expectations in education and everything else, they're lowering the architectural standards. If you look at that building there, comparative to that building there, they look like they knew how to develop buildings better than they do in a later date, unless it's been done deliberately. I mean, really, honestly, and there's another "too late" sign. So there's another "too late" sign. So they managed to destroy small business by this pandemic that's 99.9% survivable, and build back better, which seems like a communist trope. So look at that silver thing. That, how out of place does that look? Look how beautiful Glasgow was, and then they've stuck up basically a concrete block. Can you see that? Concrete block, silver, some silver monstrosity, and look how beautiful it was. And then they put up this. I mean, really. So, just architecturally destroying it. Look at those buildings. The building that was there was absolutely beautiful. And now, I don't know if I can show you this. I'll try and come across the street. And now they put up that. Look how beautiful it was there. And look what that is. So, just absolutely terrible architecture. Look at that. So, and now I don't know what this monstrosity is going to be. Look at that building beside Central Station. We've got something else here. Look how beautiful that building is. Oh, there it is. It's just another big square block. So it's all just big square blocks, nondescript square blocks. No, more nondescript square blocks. Could be anywhere buildings. No architectural integrity, like. And this is the part of the left's ability to destroy modernity and tradition and architecture and beauty, and just putting up architectural monstrosities. And this has been allowed to happen. This has been allowed to happen. Look how beautiful this building is over here with the red sandstone. Do you see it? And then beside that, which doesn't fit into the other thing, and that, I don't know what that is. So they're basically tearing down Glasgow and putting up, could be anywhere buildings, which I don't think is an architectural improvement. And yeah, so I think that's it just now, but I'm really, honestly disgusted. Do you know what's going? We're going to have to set up another union that allows journalists to log on, so that we have a free speech trade union for journalists. That's what has to happen. If anybody's got any information on a British free speech union for journalists, let me know. But yeah, that's what has to happen. We need to get accreditation and being able to put questions, proper questions to the politicians. They're getting a free hand just now, getting softballed by the political establishment, or not the political establishment, the journalistic establishment of the old media. And the new media is rising because, understandably so, the people don't trust the old media. And at least we're asking questions. We're asking proper questions of the politicians that they're not liking, which is they're having real life consequences. Look at that. What a monstrosity, look. Look at the beautiful building beside it. Look at how beautiful it was. Look at that. So they're really lowering the tone. Lowering the tone on architecture as well as that. Anything that was noble and good, look how beautiful that is. So they're destroying the architecture. This is what's happening with the state. And destroying women, destroying the relationships between men and women, destroying heterosexuality. I mean, it's just, and now becoming, wee Nippy is becoming increasingly authoritarian. Wants people not to go into pubs, need COVID passports to go into pubs, needs, you got to do lateral flow tests. I think people are just getting sick of it, to be honest with you. I think people are sick to death of listening to an authoritarian like wee Nippy. And it's not going to matter if you change your vote from the SNP to the Greens to the Tories to the Liberals to the SNP. They are all globalist shill parties. The underlying message is globalist. They're all doing exactly the same thing. Wee Nippy's doing exactly the same thing as Boris Johnson. She wants to be independent yet do exactly the same thing as Westminster. What's the point in that? They're all in together. It's one agenda, multiple parties, and the agenda is not for your benefit. The agenda is for their benefit, and if anybody asks them tricky questions that they don't like, they will not get in. Right, troops, I'll come back later on.